Hi everybody, I am Sean. I'm one of the aquarists here at the Seacoast Science Center. Today we're going to be talking about how to properly hold our animals, whether those are in our touch tank or the animals in our shark touch tank. So this is our touch tank right over here. Now some of the animals that you might find in our touch tank are sea stars, sea anemones, horseshoe crabs, hermit crabs, different types of crabs, rock crabs, donut crabs, green crabs. You also might find different shells of mussels or periwinkles or dogwells. So some of the few things that we are looking at in our touch tank is some sides are a little bit more sandier than others. Those rocks are there for a reason. You can gently sort of pick them up a little bit and look them underneath, but make sure that you're placing them back right where they found. And don't take these rocks out or toss them anywhere. We want to be really gentle with the rocks in the touch tank. The other things that you might find are kelp, different types of seaweed, and these things you guys can definitely pick out of the water, and you can let the visitors touch them and you can talk all about them. But some of those live animals we'll show you in the next couple minutes of how to handle those. The first animal we're going to learn how to pick up is our sea star. So we're going to locate it in our touch tank, which is right over here. We're going to gently hold it, pick it right up with two hands, just like that. Now I'm going to simulate a visitor coming over to touch it. So we're going to allow the visitor to hold it by touch it with two fingers, just like this. And then if you decide that you would like to flip it over, you're going to take one hand and go like this. Just like that. And you can show the visitors all the parts of the sea star. And then again with the two fingers, you can have them touch just like that, but have them be very gentle. And then when we put it back down, we're going to roll it back over and put it right gently back down where we found it. Our next animal is the sea urchin. So again, we're going to locate it in the touch tank. It is again right on this rock. So gently grab it with two hands and bring it right over. And again, we're going to stimulate a visitor, so we're going to touch it with these two fingers right here, just like that. Okay, and then again, if you want to roll it over, you gently roll it over just like that, never letting go and never taking it out of the water. And you can let the visitors again touch with two fingers, just like this or like that. And when we go to put it back down, gently roll it back over and replace to where we found it. Our next animals are the periwinkle, the dogwell, the mussel, or any snail-like creature, right? So we're again gonna locate them in our touch tank. And so there's them right here. So we'll pick up the snail first. And this you can normally just pick up with one hand. And you could set it just like that. Now again with the two fingers for the visitors, they just touch just like that. These are a little bit more, so you can roll them over a little bit more, or a little bit better. Touch them again just like that. Sometimes you can bring them out of the water, just be really careful. And then we're gonna put them right back to where they found it. Again, very similar with the dogwell. Again, you can touch it there, you can roll it over, just be really gentle. And the visitors can hold these. And here we go. And the mussels, or the clump of mussels, are very similar too. So you're gonna be gentle, make sure you get the whole clump of mussels in your hand. The visitors can touch them here and here. Again, you can roll them over or anything like that, but just we want to make sure we're holding them over the water and make sure that we're putting them right back to where we found them. Our next animal is the crab. Now there are several ways that you can hold a crab, but we are going to locate our crab, and I actually am holding one right here. It's just a lot easier. So you can hold it with two fingers just underneath like that, or two fingers like that. You always want to make sure you have a hand kind of underneath that, just in case you were to drop them. We also generally want to try to keep them in the water as much as possible. Like I said, they can come out for just a little bit. And now, see, I'm going to hold it just like this, and I'm going to let go for just a second to stimulate a visitor so they can touch the back, but we want to keep them away from the claws or the eyes or anything like that, okay? And you can flip them over, but again, always make sure that you have sort of your other hand sort of either bracing that hand or just underneath it so that you don't drop it, right? And then you can kind of show the visitors or whoever it is and talk about all the different pieces of the crab. And then we're gonna put it right back to where we found it and just gently set it down. And there you go. Animal is the hermit crab. Now again, we're gonna locate him in the touch tank. And we can see that he is right here. So we're gonna gently kind of pick him up, make sure he's in the water. Now he's normally probably gonna hide in his shell, but we can let visitors touch the shell just like this. And if you wanna flip him over, you can be gently just like that. And they can look at his claws or something like that, but we never wanna stick our fingers inside of there. And then again, roll it back over and gently stick it back down to where you found it. Our next animal is the horseshoe crab. Now you're gonna find them either in the touch tank or the shark touch tank. And you're gonna be gentle. You're gonna pick them up with 2 hands. So you're gonna reach in, and it might be a little bit deep. But once you get them, be very gentle. And you're gonna hold just like this right underneath the water. Now they can come out of the water just for a brief period of time if you'd want the visitors to touch. Now I'm gonna stimulate, but never let go of this other side. So they can touch kind of over here with 2 fingers. Again, make sure they're holding with 2 fingers. Now if you wanna flip the animal, again, hold it very gently like that. And then again, just sort of re-grip so that you're holding it just like that. And now the visitors, you can show the visitors all the stuff underneath. Again, we're gonna stimulate. They can touch, sort of be very gentle with the legs or the shell. We never wanna touch the gills. And then we're gonna flip them back over and we're gonna put them right down to where we found them. Our next animal is the sea anemone. So again, we're gonna locate them in the touch tank. Now these are a little bit trickier because sometimes they are stuck on certain rocks and stuff like that. Now we don't ever wanna peel them off, right? But if they're on a shell, you can gently pick up the shell just like this. And you can make sure you hold it completely under the water. Now if visitors do wanna touch, they can touch with 2 fingers and just be really gentle right on the outside. Now you never wanna touch there, but they can touch on the outside. And then again, we're going to gently place it down to where we found it. Now again, we don't ever wanna see anyone peeling these anemones off the rocks. So now we're gonna talk about how to handle a lobster. Now there might be several locations or programs that you might do for a lobster. One might be an animal in a bucket, and there are sort of rules and instructions for that in the training manual binder. But you also might find one in the touch tank for periods of times and things like that. But for now, we're gonna sort of train you on how to handle a lobster. So when we're handling lobsters, again, I said you could find them in a couple different locations, whether that's in the touch tank or whether you're doing them in an animal or bucket. You want to make sure that the visitors are only touching with those 2 fingers, and they can touch sort of the shell, but stay away from that sort of head. So when you do animals in a bucket, you want to get a gray bucket just like this. You want to fill it about halfway with nice and cold water. Now, if these programs are lasting more than, I would say, 30 minutes, or if it's a really hot day, you want to make sure that this water has a nice ice pack right in it, just to keep the water nice and cool. So the lobster, we're gonna make sure that those rubber bands are on nice and tight, and then you're gonna grab it with 1 hand right on top, and you're gonna place the second hand right underneath. That way it's not gonna sort of slide and drop or anything like that. Then you can show the visitors and sort of they can touch around here, around the shell, but you wanna stay away from their antennas and their eyes. When you flip them upside down, you wanna go with 2 hands, and they're gonna flop a little bit just like that. Hold nice and tightly, and then you're gonna move your other hand down by the tail. Then you're gonna sort of flip it back over nice and gently, and then you're gonna replace it back to where you found it. So another animal you might sort of come across here is a sea cucumber. Now for these, you're gonna sort of find them in different tanks, but you're gonna sort of address the Aquarist team if you do find one, and if you were gonna do a program with them. The other thing is we're gonna show you sort of how to pick them up. You're gonna sort of kind of cradle it just like I did there with 1 hand, and sort of keep it generally just in the water, just like that. Now, a visitor can sort of touch very, very gently, if you allow them to, is just the outside, just like that, just to sort of feel them. Again, with those 2 fingers, and again, you can sort of roll them over nice and gently, just like that, or roll them back. And when you place them back in the water or back to where you found them. Just be nice and gentle setting them down. Hi, this is the shark touch tank that we have. So in this tank we can find chained cat sharks. There's usually a couple little skates in here, and sometimes there's horseshoe crabs in here. So in the next couple minutes you'll learn how to sort of handle those animals. There are a couple rules with the shark touch tank. For one, we want to make sure that all of the hands that are going in here are clean. So when we do programs, we want to make sure that we're washing our hands beforehand, whether that's running over to the touch tank, sink, and letting our visitors sort of wash their hands. But especially for our naturalist or anyone who's sort of going to be with their hands in the tank for a long period of time, we want to make sure that our hands are nice and clean, and kind of all of that extra oil and stuff is all gone. Another couple rules is we want to make sure that all the visitors aren't sticking their hands in, right? So we want to make sure that only you are putting your hands in, and when you're instructing people, then they can put their hands in. But first, no hands in the touch tank. We're going to learn how to pick up the chained cat sharks. Now sometimes they are a little bit more tricky to handle because they kind of have a mind of their own, right? They're live creatures. So the best way to do this is to take sort of one hand like this, and we are going to gently place the hand in the water, right? And so the things you don't want to do is sort of grab them or reach towards their face or any kind of thing like that. That could harm the animal. So what I'm gonna do is sort of gently slide my hand right underneath into the sand, just like that. And if they start to swim away, we're gonna let them swim away. We'll try one of these over here. And again, I'm gonna start like this, kind of go under the sand just so slowly, and then you could sort of glide them up just like that. Now again, you can bring them sort of just below the surface of the water. You never want to take them out of the water. And with visitors, you want to make sure the visitors are coming to you. So the visitors can line up, they're going to take 2 fingers, and they're going to sort of place them in the water and touch the shark just like that. Now if the shark starts to swim away, you're going to let it swim away. But if you want to place it back down, you're going to gently sort of slide it back towards the bottom as it goes. And if it doesn't want to go, then you don't have to. But just sort of just like that. So another rule about the touch tank is when we're actually touching the sharks, we want to go with their scales. So we want to go take our 2 fingers just like this and go from head to sort of toe. But we want to kind of stay away from the head region. So we kind of want to go from like mid-body to sort of mid-tail. Okay. Another rule is that because we are sort of in a general square rectangular shape, we want to make sure that the visitors are coming to us. We don't want to take the sharks all around the tank to sort of see them. So when you are about to touch the shark, pick it up, and we'll show you how to do that. But when you pick it up, have the visitors sort of form a line and come to you. Another rule is we want to make sure that we're not doing too many programs a day. So after you're sort of done with this, you're going to fill out a log sheet that says you did a shark touch tank program with just a rough amount of people. Now, if there are too many people, let's say if there's 20 plus people, you want to make sure that you're bringing in another person to sort of help you with the touch tank. Over a long period of day, we probably don't want more than, I would say, 2 programs a day. We prefer 1, but no more than 2. And probably less of 40 people. So our next animal we're going to talk about is the skate that's in the shark touch tank. Now the skate is a much more harder animal to sort of understand and sort of pick up. So for that reason, if you would like to learn sort of how to do that, you can come talk to an Aquarist team member. Other than that, we're going to sort of refrain from letting our visitors or people who sort of are a little bit more timid to sort of not sort of touch that animal. So we can talk about it to visitors, but for the most part, we're just gonna sort of let it swim by and sort of not let it sort of affect our program for sharks. So our next animal is Raspberry, our box turtle. And there are some rules with Raspberry. Sometimes we'll do visitor programs either outside or inside with Raspberry. And when we do that, we just wanna make sure that everyone is sort of sitting in a circle and they're nice and calm and being quiet. Raspberry doesn't like a lot of loud noises and a lot of people coming over and touching him. Now the other thing is, if you are going to set Raspberry down and either walk on the floor, or a lot of times Raspberry likes his walks, so you're going to make sure that everyone stays the same distance away and there's no overcrowding or following him as he goes on his walk. One of those things is Raspberry's tank is a little bit more challenging to get Raspberry out of. This lid sits right on top, just right on top here, so you want to gently sort of take the lid right off and set it right to the side. And as you are looking, Raspberry's climbing right back into the tree stump there. So when you are going to pick up Raspberry, first you want to make sure that you're not touching any of this stuff up here. This is a lot of the hot heat lamps and the lights and temperatures, so that Raspberry stays at a consistent temperature. Now we want to stay away from the lights because they do get relatively hot. So you don't want to kind of reach down there and sort of hit the light and you might get a nice burn or something like that. But when Raspberry is in the tank, you want to gently sort of move the rock just like this, or the tree stump. And you're going to reach down with one hand and sort of gently pick Raspberry up and bring him out. And then as soon as you get him out of the tank, you're going to set that other hand just like that. And you're going to carry him just like this to wherever your program is. You're going to want to hold this animal with two hands and be very gentle with him. Now, when you have visitors touch them, they want to make sure you stay away from the head region. As you can see, as I just even moved my hand a little bit slightly that way, Raspberry tried to back into his shell. With two fingers, you can have visitors sort of touch the shell here or here, just to sort of feel like what it is. Now you're going to hold them just like this. You can gently sort of roll them around if you feel inclined to sort of show everybody the hinge underneath, or you can kind of set them down. Now if you're going to set them down, again, just make sure the area is nice and clear here, and make sure that you are keeping your 100% on him, your 100% attention right on Raspberry. If he doesn't want to move around, he doesn't, but when you're picking him up, again, make sure you grab him with two hands just like that. Now one of the rules with Raspberry is sometimes Raspberry likes to urinate or something like that, so we want to make sure that you always have a towel to sort of dry your hands or dry the visitors' hands. Now for the most part too, you should advise the visitors, if they are touching Raspberry, to go wash their hands immediately after. That is to prevent any of the germs from Raspberry sort of getting into any of our visitors. For outreaches in Animal in a Bucket, we do have these animal checkout log that actually goes through every direction on how to, where the water comes from, where to get the animals, and then you are going to fill out this log sheet. Now this happens every time you take an animal out in a bucket, whether that's in for a daily program or for an outreach program or a camp program. Anytime that an animal comes out of the tank, other than at the touch tanks, you need to fill out one of these forms. There are forms for in-house and for outreach, and they look very similar. The other thing is you are going to start to see signs just like this to make sure that you are filling these out properly and at the right times. Now there's also going to be checkout forms on the shark touch tank, so that way we know how many programs are being done a day. So one last note as we come to a close here on our training video. You might be out and about in our Gulf of Maine exhibit hall or down with the coral reefs. If you seem to notice a problem with any of our tanks or any of our fish, make sure that you are coming to an Aquarist team member right away as soon as you notice those problems. Even if there's a problem inside of your either education program or at the touch tank, make sure you report that to an Aquarist team member. There are a couple things going on that you might see, different fish that you might come across. We just ask you to not touch any of those fish or flounders or anything that might also be placed into the touch tank, or even in any of our other tanks, unless you're instructed to do so by an Aquarist team member. Thank you everyone on behalf of the Seacoast Science Center Aquarist team, and we hope you have learned something about how to handle our animals.